My sister was my coworker until she told HR I was aggressive for asking about my overtime pay. I got written up. So I went to finance and asked them one thing. Can I see who approved her $9,000 Christmas bonus? The email had my name forged. I printed it, walked into her office, and shut the door. I never wanted to work at the same place as my sister. Talia and I were close when we were kids. But as adults, we drifted. Not because of a big fight or anything dramatic, just life. She always had this way of needing help without asking. Our parents treated her like the more fragile one. I was the dependable one, the strong one. I got used to it. She didn't really grow out of that role, though. When she got hired at my company 2 years ago, I didn't think much of it. Different department. She was in vendor relations, I was in project coordination. At most, I figured we'd run into each other at the coffee machine. At first, it was okay. She'd swing by my desk sometimes. We'd eat lunch together when our schedules matched. She'd vent about her team or ask me how to word things to sound more professional. I didn't mind helping. I was happy to. It wasn't until later that I realized she was watching everything. Not just watching, but taking notes on how things worked, who had influence, what names mattered. I had built trust at that place. I didn't think she'd use that against me. Late last year, work got intense. A few people were out on leave, and I picked up a lot of extra hours. Nothing crazy. I wasn't saving lives, but I stayed late, worked through some weekends. When the paycheck came and didn't include the overtime, I was confused. I double-checked my hours. Everything was submitted. Timesheets were accurate. So I sent a polite email to HR asking if there was a delay or something I missed. 3 days later, I was in a meeting with HR and my manager. They said someone had filed a complaint saying I'd been verbally aggressive and made them feel unsafe when I asked about my pay. They wouldn't tell me who. They said the person feared retaliation. I was stunned. I asked once, politely, in writing. No confrontation, no raised voice. I couldn't defend myself without knowing what I was even being accused of. HR said they were taking a precautionary approach and issued a formal write-up to document the incident. First time I'd ever been written up in my career. I felt humiliated. I told Talia later that day. She just frowned and said, maybe they're just being careful. HR can be like that. She didn't act surprised, just quiet, like she was holding something back. After that, things got tense. I didn't go to lunch with her anymore. I stayed focused on my work, but something about the whole thing didn't sit right. I wasn't sure why. Just a feeling in my gut. Then, the bonus leak happened. A guy I knew in finance, Matt, we'd helped each other out a few times over the years. He pulled me aside during a coffee break and asked if I knew Talia got a $9,000 Christmas bonus. I thought he was kidding. Nobody got bonuses like that. The most I'd ever seen was $2,500, and that was for someone who landed a huge contract. I laughed and said, that can't be right. He looked dead serious and said, I think you need to see something. He took me to his desk, opened an internal system, and pulled up the approval trail for bonuses in Talia's department. There it was, her name, $9,000 next to it. And under approved by my name. I stared at it. I knew immediately it wasn't real. It had my old email signature, the one I stopped using 6 months ago. The formatting was off, too, like it had been copied from a sent email and pasted into a new one. The timestamp was weird. I never saw that email. I never signed off on anything. I didn't even have the authority to approve bonuses in her department. Do you want a copy of this? Matt asked. I hesitated. Then I nodded. He printed it. Just one sheet. I folded it and put it in my pocket. My hands were shaking. That night, I barely slept. I sat on my couch staring at that paper. I couldn't wrap my head around it. It wasn't just a lie, it was my name. She used my reputation to get something she didn't earn. And then it hit me. The HR complaint. She had to know I was going to ask questions about my pay. She had to get ahead of it. What better way than to discredit me first? I waited 2 days. Not because I wanted to calm down, but because I needed to be sure I wouldn't do something I'd regret. I watched her at work. She smiled at people. joked in the break room, acted like she didn't have a secret. Friday afternoon, just before most people were heading out for holiday break, I walked into her office. She was at her desk, eating a salad and scrolling through emails. I walked in, shut the door behind me, and placed the email in front of her. She glanced down, didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then she picked it up, looked at it, and said, "What is this?" I didn't answer. She stared at it, then folded it in half and held it out to me like it was junk mail. I didn't take it. Then I said, "You reported me to HR." She paused. "You were being intense." I didn't feel comfortable. That's all she said. No apology. No denial. Just that. I walked out. That night, I filed a fraud complaint with both finance and HR. I attached the email printout, included screenshots of my current signature, and a full written statement. I laid out every detail. I told them about the old signature format, the mismatched timestamp, the department structure, everything. I haven't heard back yet, but she knows I know. And that door we used to keep open? It's closed for good now. After I filed the fraud report, I thought things would move fast. I thought someone would call me the next day, maybe even call her in and confront her. But instead, nothing. Days went by. Then weeks. No email. No call. I checked my inbox every morning and every night. HR was silent. Finance was silent. Talia, on the other hand, didn't act like anything had happened. She came back from the holiday break, cheerful. She brought in cookies for the office, laughed a little too loud in the hallway, said things like, "Hope everyone got the bonus they deserved." Stuff like that, right in front of me. I started to think maybe she was trying to get me to react. Maybe she was trying to push me into saying something she could twist against me again. So I stayed quiet. But inside, I was furious. Then, out of nowhere, I was called in for another HR meeting. They said they'd reviewed my complaint and had spoken to all involved parties. They told me they found no clear evidence of intentional misconduct and that bonus approvals often go through informal channels. I asked them directly, "Did you ask me if I approved it?" They avoided the question. Then they said something I'll never forget. "We recommend you consider letting this go for the sake of workplace harmony." Let it go. I left the room shaking. I knew what was happening. HR wasn't going to touch it. Finance wasn't going to push it. Talia had made herself too safe. She knew exactly how far she could go. So I stopped going through the front door. I started asking quiet questions. I went back to Matt in finance. Asked him if there were any other bonus approvals with my name on them. He looked, hesitated, then showed me 2 more from earlier in the year. Smaller amounts. $3,000 here. $1,500 there. Same fake signature. Same formatting. I asked him to email them to me. He said he couldn't. Too risky. So I printed them right then and there. I started putting together a folder. Every piece of paper. Every fake approval. Every HR write-up. I documented the time Talia asked me to help her word a template for a bonus justification email back in spring. I realized she had probably been testing how I phrased things, how I signed things. Then something strange happened. My work assignments started shrinking. I was being left off emails. Projects I normally led were being given to newer employees. My manager said they were just trying to lighten my load after the HR stuff. I knew it wasn't random. Someone was getting in their ear. Someone was slowly pushing me out. It didn't stop there. My annual performance review came back, meets expectations, for the first time in 4 years. No explanation. No negative comments, just a bland, average rating. That killed my bonus. Talia? She got another one. This time only $4,000, but still. It was enough to send a message. She was winning. She had poisoned the well, and no one wanted to deal with the mess. But I wasn't going to let it go. Not anymore. I made copies of the folder. One I kept at home. One I left with Matt in case anything happened to mine. And one I gave to an attorney. Quietly. No threats. Just advice. I didn't say a word to anyone else at work. Not a whisper. But I could feel the tension build every time I walked into a room. Talia stopped looking me in the eye. She started coming in late, leaving early. One day I passed her office and saw her on the phone, crying. She slammed her laptop shut when she saw me. Something was happening behind the scenes. I just didn't know what yet. Then I got an anonymous email. No name. Just a throwaway Gmail. It said, "Check the vendor contract renewals from Q2. She's been inflating numbers and sending padded totals to finance. Her boss isn't the one submitting them. She is. Look at the timestamps. Look at the email routing." I didn't know who sent it, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't the only person she had crossed. I didn't reply to the anonymous email. I just followed it. I waited until after hours one night. Stayed late like I used to. Everyone was gone except cleaning staff. I pulled up the vendor files from Q2, just like the email said. I had access through an old shared folder that no one had bothered to lock down when they restructured our teams. I started comparing the vendor reports with what was logged in the finance system. The differences were small at first, little things. A few padded invoices, some odd duplicate charges. But then I found one contract where the final amount sent to finance was $18,000 higher than the signed vendor invoice. That wasn't a typo. That was deliberate. The approval came from Talia's department head. But the email trail said it was forwarded for signature by Talia. The original quote wasn't in the thread. Just the final, inflated total. The attachment metadata said it was modified 5 hours before it was submitted to finance. I checked the computer logs from that day using the document history tool we all had access to. The file was last saved on her laptop. I took screenshots of everything. I printed the email chains. I pulled the vendor's original quote from an archived inbox. Side by side, it was obvious. She wasn't just forging bonus approvals. She was forging vendor numbers too. This wasn't just a family betrayal anymore. It was real fraud. I added it to the folder. Then, a week later, something I didn't expect happened. Matt from finance got put on administrative leave. No warning. No goodbye email. Just gone. I tried texting him. No reply. Then my system access started glitching. I couldn't open some of the older files. Certain folders gave me errors. When I asked IT, they said they were restructuring access. Talia was still walking around like nothing had happened, but her smiles were thinner. She avoided group meetings. She started working from home more often. Then I got called into HR again. This time, the director was there. They said there were concerns about my after-hours activity, that I had accessed sensitive financial data without authorization. I asked them if they were investigating the forged approvals. They said they couldn't discuss internal matters involving other employees. Then they handed me a final warning. One more policy violation, and I'd be let go. They wanted me gone. Talia had gotten ahead of me again. She was covering her tracks faster than I could dig. That night, I went home and opened the second folder. The one I hadn't touched since I gave it to the lawyer. And I emailed it all. Every page, every screenshot, every file. Not to HR. Not to IT. Not even to the board. I sent it straight to the company's external auditor. The one that handled compliance and risk for our entire firm. The contact I found buried in the financial policy manual no one reads. The one that says employees can report fraud confidentially, bypassing internal teams. Then I turned off my computer and waited. I didn't go in the next day. I called out. So did Talia. But for very different reasons. I stayed home that Friday. Didn't check my work email. Didn't answer calls. Just sat on my couch and waited. Monday morning, 8:12 a.m., I got a text from someone in payroll. They're here. By noon, the whispers had started. Auditors were in the building. Not internal. External. People no one recognized. 4 of them. All serious. All in black suits. They were walking floor to floor, calling people in. IT, finance, vendor relations. They weren't talking. They were taking notes. At 1:47 p.m., Talia left the building. She didn't walk out with her usual bag. Just a plain white envelope in her hand. Her face was pale. Eyes red. She didn't say a word to anyone. She never came back. Later, I found out they'd confronted her with the forged approvals, the altered vendor contracts, the fake emails. They had already spoken to the vendors. They pulled the login metadata. They matched the timestamps. There was no way out. She tried to blame me, said I was helping her, said I coached her on how to make the numbers look clean, said I forged them and she just forwarded them. But the files told the truth. I never touched them. The auditor already had the entire paper trail with my lawyer's timestamped submission. Everything lined up. Every lie she told only made it worse. She was walked out with cause. Her access was shut off. All of her bonuses were frozen. Her past payments were flagged for recovery. They might sue. They might press charges. I don't know. I didn't ask. 2 days later, HR sent me a formal apology. They withdrew the write-up from my file. Quietly. No meeting. Just an email saying they regret the administrative error and appreciate my patience. They said they had no comment on the investigation outcome. Of course they didn't. Matt got reinstated the next week. Turns out, he had also flagged concerns about Talia months ago. But someone higher up told him to let it go. He didn't.
He's head of his team now.
I didn't stay. I gave them 1 month's notice and left on my own terms. Took a job with a competitor. Better pay. Better team. Cleaner air. Talia hasn't spoken to me since. My parents tried to get me to call her. They said she made a mistake. That I shouldn't have ruined her career. I told them she ruined herself. They didn't want to hear it. We don't talk much anymore. That's fine with me. Sometimes revenge doesn't come in some loud explosion. Sometimes it's quiet. 1 page. 1 folder. 1 locked office door. She used my name to steal from the company. I used the truth to burn the lies down. And I'd do it again.